I tell you what. Oh, here she is, Bill.
Where?
She's arrived. She's arrived.
I can't see her.
Oh, she's coming now, Bill. Gotta have some patience, man. I tell you, I bet you the first thing she goes on about is the weather. I was out. I was out last night wandering about, and it was actually quite warm.
Warm?
The night before, it was quite warm as well.
7 o'clock last week.
The thing is, right, I live on the top of a hill, right? So surely it should be cold here, but it's not.
I live on top of a hill.
Oh yeah, no, that's a mound. It's not a hill or a mountain. I live on a hill.
Oh, well, no, I live on Brackler Hill.
No, it's a mound. Right, okay. Any news from anybody this week? Bill, anything you want to tell us?
Now we'll hear your confession.
No.
Bill, have you got any?
No, we haven't.
Have you been cavorting about?
No, I haven't been cavorting this week. I've been nursing myself. So
Why?
I haven't been cavorting. So
Why have you been?
Nothing to report.
Have you been ill?
You've been ill, have you?
Been poorly?
The snivels.
Oh,
Poorly.
yeah.
That's a good word, that, poorly. Yeah, I like that. Poorly.
Actually, I look a mess. Actually, you know, if you can go along, you know, and you have got the sniffles, and I did have it last week, and I decided I'd take a Strepsil and some paracetamol, and I felt much better. I had a Lemsip, and I felt much better afterwards, and I realised I probably did have a cold or something.
Yeah.
Well, I loaned some of Richard's cocaine. It was fine.
Hanging about, you know.
I've had whiskey.
Oh yeah, of course. Any excuse for whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't like whiskey.
Hang on a minute.
Glenda. I met Glenda the other. Well, no, I didn't meet her. She texted me, and she said she was asking if we were going to have a Christmas dinner, and I said, well, I haven't organised anything yet. So she said, well, what about after Christmas then?
That's a good idea.
Sort of a New Year.
Hang on a minute. Stop a minute. You want a Christmas dinner after Christmas?
Well, you know, just to maybe have a meal together after Christmas.
That'd be nice, huh?
I don't know what, you know, I mean, it's probably everything's being booked up at the moment.
Oh, you'd never get in now. No.
No.
Okay.
Maybe to go to the Cabo Rocher.
Yeah. I'm up for it.
Okay, good. Have anyone heard from Pat?
No. Well, you know,
nice to see Pat too.
I haven't phoned her or anything, no, because well, I don't know. She's busy.
A reunion. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And finally, is there any news from Richard? Come on, Richard, give us a bit of news.
He's muted.
No, I haven't got any.
Are you sure?
You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Well, somebody did complain online to say that I wasn't posting enough Welsh, you know, archaeology. Well, I think they meant mythology as well. But I'm not really into Welsh mythology.
Tell them to bugger off. if they're not happy with what you put on there, they can bloody do it.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, do post anything, you know.
Right. Okay. Bill, do you want some of the Captain Morgans?
Rum. I've got some rum, actually. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Bill. Let's get some out.
Go on, then. There we are.
You got some, Bill?
I've got ram mats here. I have, yes, in the cupboard, yeah.
Well,
That's,
Richard, go and put some. We may as well all get pissed.
It was a
That's
good idea.
Mary's husband's tipple.
Right,
Rum.
okay, folks,
Breakfast
let's
boat.
get into it. Let's get into it. We're live on Doodar anyway. And Anne, I don't want to know about your bloody washing machine, okay?
All right.
Oh, don't take it personally, Anne. You know, it's just, you know, nobody wants to know about your
I've
washing
renewed
machine.
my care and repair.
What?
I've renewed my care and repair, so it'll be. I'll have someone come out and look at it.
Yeah, right. And I really appreciate that. It's really relevant. Right. Okay. So as we're doing the line, and I want us to get back to doing the line. And one thing I wanted to do today was something so weird and unusual, and that you're going to think there's no connection with the likes of Tim Ingold and the line and Bruegel, that it turns out that there is, right? And I was wrapping my brains today. I thought, right, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? And I thought, I'm not doing any of that today. What I'm going to do is actually First World War trenches and the map of Europe. And I thought, how more connected with the line can you get? Trench warfare, the archaeology of trenches, this whole sort of humanity thing. If we're talking about Bruegel and the line, and we're talking about what's going on in this picture, we're talking about everything and how the line progresses. And I was so shut up.
Belgium.
Look, I was just about to say something there. You've lost my plot, right?
Oh.
Basically, when I was doing the Barry archaeology class yesterday, online, because Richard wants to know this. Apparently, Richard, they don't want to go to the studio at this present moment because it's too cold, so they still want to do it at your place. Richard, they're all going to your place next week. I thought they'd invite themselves. Back to what I was saying, I remember Kate saying the line, and she said that follows a line, and I just thought, right, you've actually got what I'm trying to say with the progression of the line. What she meant was that what I'm creating here is a building which is based upon a circular design, based on everything that I've picked up from archaeology, but everything that I've picked up from working in building and being the son of a carpenter. So, you know, she said, you're following the line. And I thought, oh, yeah, I am following the line. First World War trenches, that's where I want to go now. Again, Bruegel, the Harvester, and you're thinking, yes, and Belgium, and yes, and sort of Low Countries, Netherlands, Denmark, this type of image. And obviously the Low Countries is where we need to look at, and obviously Belgium, Ypres, Somme, France, Verdun, and all the rest of it. So maybe we're going to get this out of the way today, or we're just going to flow. I am very aware of time today, so we're just going to go up to about 5 past, but that should be enough, at which point the effects of Bill drinking the alcohol in the class should have taken effect. So what I'd like to do now, I would like to sort of chuck this in there, right? Oh, go on, there, come on, there, bingo. There. You can't get any more than the line with that. Basically, trenches, the line. And you're thinking all the blue areas are the German trenches, all the red areas are the Allied trenches. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, what more, you know, you can't get any more line than this, right? You know, you can't get any more than what you're seeing on the screen, the idea of the trench. A trench, you're talking about a straight line, right? But they're not straight, they're zigzaggy, they're curved, they're very odd shapes. And this is the thing, you can work out Allied trenches because they're straight, and you can work out German trenches that they're squiggly shaped, right? But anyway, you get the idea of the line, you get the idea of that sort of progression. And I don't know why I didn't think of this before. I really, really don't, right? Because when you think of the Roman road and you think of following a progression to somewhere, and when you're moving an army, you get the idea of progression. You're moving the army forward. You're following the line. Each event along that line, each event along that battle is the line as the line develops. And we may say that the battle, the sense of warfare, is as close as the line that Ingold wants us to take. Because also, we think about battlefields today, the idea of the trenches, and this is the amazing thing. When you're thinking about Tim Ingold, you're thinking about the line, and you think about, you go to some of these places like Passchendaele, you go to some of these places like Verdun, and you go to sort of Marne, and what you see is that big tracts of the landscape are now fields. Where are the trenches? They're under the surface. Tim Ingold will say that's continuing the line, even though you can't see the trenches, but you could use modern technology to follow the line. And I think that's amazing, because what we are doing, we're coming full circle. You don't necessarily need to look at Bruegel's harvester to understand what's going on. You could have, okay, we're going to go back to that image again. We know we love that image, and we're going to go back to that image, and it's very much linked with what we're doing. So you're looking at this image, and we've said before that this image itself is the antithesis of now, the past, not, yes, and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you're thinking, what there from that original image from 450 years ago is still current, and you think, well, why don't we do a bit of aerial photography? Why don't we try and find some of the buildings that might be on that picture? Why don't we try to, and you know, for example, these people in front, this is going to sound bonkers, but we're going to do it. These people in front, where they've eaten year after year, and maybe urinated or maybe defecated or whatever. Let's just be as crude as it is, and that, you know, we're all human beings. We all pee and poo, basically. But the fact of the matter is, this is all traceable in the archaeology through doing that, looking for nettles, for example, in a landscape, indicating you've got nitrates in the soil, and you could think of the phosphate values of the soil. You can see the activity, what they're doing. Yes, you can, right? And the same can be said when you're looking at trenches and you're thinking about the history, the archaeology, the vista of what it is to be human, what it is to be an animal, what it is to be connected, what it is to be the landscape. We are the living, breathing landscape. We are the landscape. We are. So let's just move with that. We are, right? And you're thinking, well, human beings have created that line of landscape. We are, therefore it is. And you're thinking that even buried, even lost to the eye, you've got maps, you've got photographs. Do you know one thing that we looked at paintings, and you know, we could look at paintings and we could say all the different layers of the painting, and see that a painting's been painted over. You could also say that a photograph is a painting. A photograph is a statement. A photograph is art. A photograph is a demonstration. A photograph is a moment. A photograph's not perfect after all. Do you know what? We lie to ourselves. We think that photographs are more accurate than paintings. You know, I remember having a hot date with one of my children in the National Museum of Wales this one day, and I said, look over there. I said, is that there to me, that I'd never seen the painting before. I didn't have time to write it down because I'm very embarrassed to sort of write things down when I got my children. It's, Dad, why are you writing that down? I just think, oh, right, I'm not going to write it down. There was a painting in the National Museum in Cardiff. I'm getting for company. And there was a glass and it had water in it as a painting. And that looked like a photograph. It was more realistic than a photograph. And again, what the demonstration is of the past is interpretation of the actuality, interpreting the evidence, even though it's not there, having a record of something that's no longer there is less, or if more powerful than what we're talking about with the trenches, for example. So if we go back again, we take a little bit of snapshot again, and we look at this one there. And Arras, you know, we know Arras, we've heard of it. And you're talking about you can see the clear difference between the German trenches, where you've got this zigzag effect, and the Allied trenches. One thing that we need to know is that trenches are thought about as lines. The German, there you go. What did they used to say? We're going back to the lines. We're going back to the front line. We're going back to the forward trench, which is a line. The idea of the line. You know, we've been talking about the line, but we are the line. The line, we're holding the line. We are the line. We're not moving from the line. There's all this sort of military battlefield, the red wall, the red line, Islam Dawana, Rorke's Drift, holding the line. We're talking about La Garde at Waterloo. We're talking about the line. We're talking about how this all embraces the human experience. Don't get me wrong, warfare is the disaster of humanity. Warfare is the fault of humanity. If we want to go off on a tangent, we could therefore say, for example, that up until June 1914, right, up until the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand by Princeps and a Black Hand in Sarajevo, we could say that humanity was following a positive line. Humanity was following a peaceful line. I've not seen many people discuss what would have happened if the First World War hadn't have happened. I have this debate with myself a lot. If the First World War had not happened, we're going on to history now, but the history is archaeology. Archaeology is history. If the First World War hadn't have happened, Austria-Hungary would have collapsed. Russia would have collapsed. The Ottoman Empire would have collapsed. But Britain, France, and Germany would have still been friends. That would have been the line. That would have, somehow there would have been a world war. But our allies would have been Germany against Russia. Statement of history. This is what Adolf Hitler said in the 1940s. Allies helped Germany to fight the Bolshevik. That's history, I know. But again, the line is always, do we follow the line always in history? And the answer is no. So the events of one thing that we know about history is that history can be buried but not forgotten, right? I love that series called I love that series with Julie Graham and Hugh Bonneville Carter, and it was oh God, I've forgotten the name of it. It was out in 2008. It was a spoof of archaeology, and you know, it was that statement that there's always history under our feet. It's always there. Bone Kickers, that's the series, and it was that sort of sense that history's always with us. History's always under the surface, even if you can't see it. you know, what we've done by following the line, we've looked at the idea of the line in space, we've looked at the line in sea, we've looked at the physical line. This is a pseudo line where we think about First World War trenches being filled in, right? Crops being planted on the surface, relics on the surface of unexploded ordnance, casings, barbed wire, bits of human remain, bits of animal remain, bits of horse, bits of button, bits of tunic, bits of this, bits of that. But away from the physical, there's the after effect of the First World War, which causes the Spanish flu. That needs to be put into the archaeological line, because as archaeologists, we try to explain the past. We try to explain the past from events. Is that what we should do? Do we explain the Minoan civilization, the destruction of the Minoan civilization in 1628 BC down on Thera, down to something that was reported by Plato about Atlantis? Do we see the Emperor Julian plague in the late 530s, 540s, the great plague that swept across Europe that took 250 million lives, right? That event explains the archaeology. Without the event explaining the archaeology, we would struggle to see what the archaeology meant, right? So the Spanish flu is an addition to explaining the archaeology. What is the Spanish flu? Yes, the Spanish flu is young men being so close to each other, they may as well taken their clothes off and had sexual intercourse. And that's not to sound crude, right? The interaction that our men and women had in the First World War was so close that they could not avoid getting the Spanish flu. And it was the young men and women who were dying in the First World War by their close proximity, by breathing on each other, by coughing on each other. And the Spanish flu is a sign of archaeology, but within a historical narrative. I want to go off on a bit of a tangent, right? And we need to do more of the First World War next week. I would really like to come back to this next week. I'm quite excited with this. This is going to sound absolute nuts, right? The COVID fake demic, whatever you want to call it, when that was announced on the 21st of March, 2020, I had already had it once, and millions of people in Britain had already had it, right? And I'm thinking, right, okay, yes, I suffered. Yeah, other people suffered. We had injections, yes. But in the archaeology, where is going to be the archaeology to prove that there was a pandemic, right? Well, we're going to see billions of face masks, billions of disposable gloves, billions of items of PPE in landfill.
Mm-hmm.
That's the evidence for this time period.
Mm-hmm.
But is that the only evidence? It's not. Because
sorry.
what, and this is a really good point. This is an upsetting point to make. But in the pandemic, people were buried rapidly, and without service, and without much going on. Basically, very little was printed in newspapers. Most newspapers didn't print. There was no invites to funerals. There was none of those little cards saying I was at a funeral. People were buried in rows in cemeteries, very close to each other. And that is going to be a sign in the archaeology for a very short period of time. I know it sounds upsetting. I don't know, there's one of you that is affected by me even talking about this. Well, I'm affected by talking about this. I lost 4 students. So but in the archaeology, we can see that, we know it. There is going to be a sign in the future that there was this pandemic, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go back onto this in a moment. I was looking at a car park the other day, right? I drove to park at a car park, right? And whilst I was waiting, I looked around the car park, and on the ground, you could see squares, right? You could see the outlines of squares. And you could see the outlines where there had been a sticky label on the floor and it had been ripped off, right? From the outlines on that car park, I don't know how long that stadium's going to last, whether it's going to last a year, 10 years, 20 years, but I can identify that there was something going on there. That spot was a COVID vaccine location. And I can see it, but the buildings are now gone. Is that not different, or is that the same as what's going on with the First World War? And I say it's the same. It's the same that we're seeing and understanding with a palimpsest of history. Love the word palimpsest, the palimpsest of history. Let's see a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more here. Okay, there we go. I want us to look at these images. I want us to, hang on, if we can get these, I want us to look at these images. They're in a trench. They're in a line, right? Not to sound disrespectful, but most of those people just after this photograph are dead. Their line has finished, but their contribution to the line has only just started. They might be buried at a cemetery at Passchendaele or Arras or Marne or Verdun or just outside Paris or somewhere. Their memorial, their contribution is still as relevant then as it is now, following the line, even though the trench is no longer there. I want us to go back a bit. There's other images, right? I want us to look at this. That's Europe. That is Europe. Now you know why I mentioned what I did earlier on about if the First World War had never happened, what would change? That's Europe in 1914, right? And am I wrong or am I right that the borders are lines? They're lines between one country and another. They're democratic lines. They're democratic lines. They're political lines. They're geographical lines. They're landscape lines. But moreover, they're historical and based on archaeological lines. Like all empires, there are lines, there are borders, there are frontiers. And you know what I wanted to do today? I want to do Hadrian's Wall, but I thought I can't do Hadrian's Wall because I wanted to do this. And I want to do a bit of this next week. And if I chuck in a bit of Hadrian's Wall next week, you know why. But it's the interpretation of the line. It's the fear of the line. We've not talked about the fear of the line. The fear of a boundary, a fear of somebody stopping you, a fear of a barbed wire fence, a fear of a boundary that will stop you, a fear of something that's always been set in stone, like the Maginot Line, which would be built in response to the after effects of the First World War. And you talk about generals in the First World War, they talked about lines. They talked about the Hindenburg Line, right? They talked about the Ludendorff Line. They talked about all this sense of the line. And the thing is, right, boundaries are as important to archaeology as political boundaries. And what do I mean by that? There's something in my mind that I need to put across. Two things that I want to put across. So if we can all keep with the flow on this one. It's how we treat our history and our archaeology by following the line. And do you know what? That I've struggled with an idea that I've not been able to express, and I'm going to express it now. If Germany had built a frontier, say in about 1943, that ran along its old border, and it was made of concrete and cement, like the sea defenses of Normandy and the north coast of France, would that line that they have created not only be a political line, but it'd be a line in the sand of destroying history? Because by creating a line which would go through archaeological, geographical, demographical landscapes, changing the sense of the line, the sense of history forever, this is when you affect history. This is when you brandish the sword and create a new narrative. It's them and us, right? Going back to the point I made a few minutes ago, how we treat history, how we understand history. For example, I don't want to go into this, but in 2003, right, I was very much involved with the political narrative then, right? And I did get in trouble for my views. But this idea that 1 minute in Iraq, we've got a history that Saddam Hussein is seeing. What Saddam Hussein was doing, he was putting millions, hundreds of millions at these archaeological sites. And Saddam Hussein was completely right in what he was doing, a bit like Mussolini, right? And what Saddam Hussein was doing, he was investing in trying to say that, look, Mesopotamia is the cradle of civilization and it's not Egypt. He was right. He was investing his money into the archaeology, which was creating a line that he was creating. And then we come in and the British and American army rape and pillage its way through Iraq in 2003, and we destroy that narrative. We create a Western narrative for Iraq in an illegal war, and that changes completely the interpretation of history that the museums were trying to appeal to in the years of Saddam Hussein. You could say that Saddam Hussein was a dictator. He was brutal. But you could also say that Tony Blair was a war criminal and he was destroying tens of thousands of people's lives. So, you know, that's history, that's political history. But the fact of the matter is, the line is being distorted and altered. And the other point I want to make with this map before we look at some other images is that Denmark, checking at Denmark, for example, Denmark itself in 1807 had the first laws in the world that protected archaeological sites. They came up with some of the first highly advanced museums. The Thomson system by 1836 offered the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age to us, right? They were protecting their archaeological sites, meaning that the line would be uninterfered with, right? Whereas we would continue to destroy our archaeological sites until we started scheduling archaeological sites and protecting them. So towards the end of the Victorian era, Denmark had much better and well-preserved history and archaeology because they decided to preserve the line and to protect the line and to understand the line. And lots of other Scandinavian countries did the same, like projects like the Vasa, for example. So again, thinking about how history and archaeology is treated, the reason why I'm so bombastic in my approach to this is this thing that I did in university first in the early 2000s. We did political archaeology, we did historical archaeology, we did how archaeology is treated, and the way we were taught up until 2003 was that we were told, for example, that history and archaeology, there are problems in the world with how it's treated, and then suddenly we have wars in Afghanistan, we have wars in Iraq, we later on illegally invade Libya and all these other silly things, and then the narrative of the history that these countries are trying to give us are distorted and altered by a Western viewpoint. So let's move away from that, because it's overpower. I know that what I'm saying is overpowering. So we need to get back to why I'm saying what I've just said, back to this and back to the trenches, which is where I want to be. And by the way, one thing I wanted to add with us is, if you go to this website, which is the National Library of Scotland, it's got these trench maps, and it's a beautiful website. It's the place to go to for data that you're not necessarily going to have. And when we're looking at the trenches, we're only scratching the surface. We're not even scratching the surface. It's just a bloody image, and it's just our perception and how we see it. But it involves so much of the story. There we go. We're going to get rid of that now. And what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to go to here.
Oh,
There we go. What's that, Anne?
it's all right. I'm just trying to follow the line of my thoughts.
This is Messine Ridge.
Actually, well, I mean, I must mention Ukraine. Are they following the line?
Who again?
Ukraine. Any wars really that happened afterwards? Is it a behaviour or not a behaviour?
Right, okay, you're asking me a specific question, and I don't want to ignore it, but I've got to take out my bias, right? So if I'm looking at the Ukraine Russian conflict,
Well, the
as it
line,
is,
I suppose the line of the Russian border, I suppose. I was thinking when you were talking about
yeah,
the line, that the Russian border now is obviously a problem, or the Ukraine border is a problem.
you're using really appropriate words, and they're very kind words, to be honest with you. I appreciate that, because you're helping me answer the question without any of my political bias. Yeah, you're very right, because in many ways, our understanding of the past is not as sterile as we want it to be. Your beautiful daughter, Mary, she comes from the background that history is sterile. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. She's given evidence and she's able to interpret it, right? Unaffected by the bias, right? So that is an appropriate way of me seeing her work, which is very positive, right? The problem is your daughter wouldn't be able to do the same thing in Ukraine, because her modeling of history is now changed by somebody else coming in and say it's not like that. Yeah, but it is. It's not like that because we've changed the border. There's a new way of looking at things. And that is a problem of history.
Yeah.
Going back to my Leicester University days, I thought history was set in stone, right?
Yeah.
I believed that it was it was like looking at the Nigerian bronzes, and I just thought it's a simple matter of just giving the bronzes back to Great Britain. And years later, I'm thinking, is it as simple? What the politics is stopping us doing this. And you know, I'm gonna talk about Syria, right? This has become quite political today, but when I look at Syria, right, I saw Syria as a safe place for history and archaeology. Palmyra, for example, I thought it was a safe place. I thought Damascus, it was a safe place, right? But then in the last decade, all this stuff has been blown up and destroyed. And you're thinking, when do we start looking at history objectively? Right? When can we stop and say, history is this? You can interpret it, but history is this. Now we're being told that history isn't what we want it to be, because you've used a brilliant example of the border dispute between Ukraine and Russia. And that's a very, very good way of seeing this. Now, these trenches that you can actually see, Messine Ridge. One thing about this is any trench with the Messine Ridge, it was a boundary, it was a border, it was. You could argue that it's a one thing that the military generals said about the German politicians was that they felt betrayed, right? And that the trenches that they had on the ground were now political boundaries and not military boundaries, because the politicians have made it their war and not the military generals, right? So we in archaeology want to see transparency of the history. We want that trench to be what we want it to be, right? It's a trench. It's a moment in time, but it's not a moment in time because we're seeing it now. It's in front of us. It's part of our time span. It's part of our time frame because we're excavating it. It's in the now. It makes it relevant. Making the past relevant is as important as the events that actually occurred. Because, for example, I have been thinking of something very, very complex, and I've been trying to put it down in paper, and it goes along the lines of, you've got an event in the past that we're told happened, right? But actually, the original event was something completely different. It's just that everything after that's been invented, right? And then you can discover what the original tone of events was, place it in advance of the fake history, but you'll always have three different timelines. You'll have the actual event of history, you'll have the made-up history, and you'll have the other event of history. The problem is with people like, have you ever come across the a historian called Irving?
Irving.
Yeah, basically he's a guy who says that you know, lots of the concentration camps didn't happen. You know, I know they did, but he would argue that lots of it was faked, right? So 12 million people who were exterminated in the camps, whether they're homosexual, whether they're gypsy, whether they're Jehovah's Witnesses, political prisoners, people with OCD or whatever, right? That's disrespecting them, right? So it has to be in the archaeology that we remember these things and we understand these things, right? And understand these trenches are real. they're
There
real.
are people who believe that it didn't happen, or, you know, I know that.
And do you know, if I could,
But
I thought
I'll keep that name Irving, and I'll
Irving,
have
yeah,
a look. Yeah,
if
I've heard the
you
name.
could, yes, you could imagine the idea of time travel. Think about this. Think about the idea of time travel. You change the past, but nothing in the past changes. The timeline continues, but eventually what you change in the past will be eventually discovered, right?
Yeah,
The past is as complicated as that, and it continues to be complicated and
yeah,
worked at and churned into and cut into. And again, looking at a very powerful image like this, you've got the duck boarding, you've got the corrugated iron there. I do believe this is an Allied trench at Messine, right? And because it's relatively straight, and we just built the bloody things, you know. Yeah, the Germans were. I believe that the Germans were a lot better trench builders than we were. You know, the good old Tommy didn't have as much in resources as the good old the good old German, right? But if we look at that image, we just think about that. That image is not linked with the other image that we're going to look at, but it could be. So if we go back to this, and we think about those good old Tommies, right? And can I give you a little bit of a fact? Those helmets didn't come in until after 1915. Before that, people didn't have helmets.
Oh my God. No, they just had their uniform hats, was it?
Yeah, canvas hats. Yes, they didn't have they didn't have those helmets. They didn't have helmets like that. You know, helmets came in later. So, you know,
That's a good picture.
when people show films of the Boxing Day piece or the Christmas Eve piece of 1914, you never see them with metal helmets.
No.
They've all got canvas helmets on. Obviously, some of the Germans had the pickle helmets, but they were in short supply as well. And you find one of them today, you're a very rich person. There weren't many of them about, to be honest with you. But again, you're surprised with me saying that. And it's that experience which makes the First World War very challenging. You know, we expect to find certain types of evidence associated with the First World War. We expect to see a straight trench, and they're not. We expect to see lines and lines of straight barbed wire, and they're not. We expect to see lines of straight bodies, and we do. But because those lines of straight bodies have had to be buried in straight lines in the cemeteries, and the way they were placed in a memorial in order. Now, we've used the word order again, right? Can you remember what we did not so long ago? And hang on, I'm just going to double check to see if anyone else has joined us.
Goth.
Right. Has he joined us? Right, okay.
Well, he's in the waiting room.
Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in. Right, okay. Let's get that back there. Right, well, anyway, back to where we were. Back to that image that we were on. Right. You could say that the First World War was very ordered, right? And the archaeology, in a way, puts it into order, right? But just because you're seeing a trench that everything's nicely laid out, and there's duck boarding, and there's corrugated iron, and there's a bit of barbed wire here, and there's this, and there's that, and all these other things, right? The Second World War was far from being ordered. It was completely disorganized. Nothing was really planned. The idea of having trenches is disorder, right? Because the First World War was never meant to be fought like this. the Germans were meant to cut off Paris and then head towards the sea. They were meant to divide the Allies and all these other things. There was there was not meant to be any trench warfare, right? That was not meant to happen, but it did happen. So the disorganization is actually the trenches themselves, right? And then we think that's the order, but it's not. The order of things is the trenches. The order of things is the way we want to see the archaeology telling us the story. We want. Let's just. We're coming to the end now because Goff doesn't know what the hell we're doing, but we're gonna see Goff see what we're doing. Let's look at some images of First World War trenches again. So we've got that there, right? And we're thinking when you scroll through these images, everything looks nice, everything looks tender, right? Everything looks organized. But these people didn't have that sense of order when they were there. Those burials there, that's nothing to do with it. However, that there, this could actually be at Messine Ridge. This is a familiar image. Those guys there are all fast asleep. And that guy's just waiting there. I'm just going to give you one really interesting fact. This is a fact that most people don't know. You wouldn't spend month upon month in the trenches. There was the forward trench, which would then be connected with communication trenches. This is the same as the Allies as it is with the Germans and everybody else that was fighting. And then there was the rear trench, and then usually there was another trench. So what they would do, they would alternate. So the rear trench is basically where you had the showers. You could have you could read your letters from your loved ones. You could even play a bit of music. You know, it was so far back, it was fine, right? Sometimes a mile from the front lines, maybe a lot more than that. These trench and so on. Then you've got the middle trench, which is basically your holding trench, or basically your backup trench if the first trench is overtaken. And the trench that we're saying, the rear trench, that was basically the last ditch trench anyway. Very few people ever got there. Very rarely did the Germans ever reach the rear trenches. And very rarely did the Allies ever reach the German rear trenches. So they were always relatively safe. The impression given of the First World War, which is a false impression, was the idea that there was just a trench and you lived there for like 4 years. Nonsense. But this image doesn't give that idea much justice, because these guys might be there they're a week, and then most of them are going to go maybe to the rear trench, and they're going to wash, and they're going to clean their clothes, and they're going to be okay for a week, right? So images are sometimes false, and they give a false impression. And it gives a false impression of what archaeologists might actually see in the trenches and find in the trenches. Let's have another little look at one of those images, and then we'll call that a day today. And then I'm going to take a little drink, and we're going to go on to what we're meant to be doing today. So, do you know, I'm tempted to do a reconstructed trench.
Yeah, you could.
A reconstructed trench.
Well, they've done one in Monmouthshire, but they did it a while back. But there's none down in Carmarthen, I don't think. And it was a training area.
You're talking about Penally.
Oh, I
Penally.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
No, you're right. There's trenches and stuff there, but the one thing that we feel is that the First World War is something in aspic, but the realities of the First World War are very different from the photographs we see. Some of the photographs give one impression, and other photographs give another impression. And looking at this, we'll just end with this one. Come on, there we go. Look at that. That's really interesting because all that's left of that, and all that's left of that is actually the bottom of the trench.
The boarding, yeah.
That's all that's left. Not even the sides of the trench are there. Right.
Mm.
And if I want to identify this, I think that might be allied. It's allied, it's narrow enough. And with we just looking at this and we're thinking that's a really interesting image because it's showing another side of the archaeology. It's showing what's left of the history of the archaeology, and what the archaeology is left to tell us. But again, we've got so much still to learn about the First World War. We even find trench systems at Ypres, which we didn't know existed, and they're not on any maps.
Mm.
You know, sometimes the First World War, right? I've given the impression the First World War was slow. Some people stayed in a trench for 4 years, right? You know, the 3 trenches. Others, the trench line went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? Other times, trenches were so wiped out. Arras were so wiped out, Somme and whatever, that they might be lost forever. And you know, the disasters of Passchendaele and all woodland fighting and so on. There's different ways of looking at all this. And the other thing as well is lots of what we do see about the First World War had been destroyed and altered in the Second World War. It's just, we've got enough to tell us about the original events of the First World War, but not all of it. Whoa, I'm a bit knackered. That was a lot.
My grandfather was in the trenches in 1915, and he'd previously been in India, and it was a particularly bad time. I think it was like in the autumn, and it was wet and really horrible, flooded in the trenches, and he got frostbite.
This has got to be 1914 then.
Well,
Is it?
It seems that he was. We think it. Oh, we don't know when, but he was in India first, and then they sent him to the French, Belgium, I think it was, and
Must be 1915.
he got frostbite, and he said it probably saved his life because he got sent home to recover. And
so he actually lost the end of his toes. What happened?
probably, yeah. I mean, he just couldn't walk, I suppose. Couldn't walk.
I tell you what, that's not good for balance, is it? Flipping it.
No, I mean, he didn't lose any toes, I don't think, but it was just, they were just very, very bad conditions sometimes in the trenches. Wherever, depending on what trench you were in, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it all looks, like you say, it looks sterile, also clean, you know, and we've kind of excavated it all, and it looks nice and clean and tidy, but they must have been pretty rough, you know.
Yeah.
Rough living in them, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I can see
And then,
exactly
like
what
you
you're
were
saying.
saying, you were saying about that they were like, you know, he didn't stay in the trenches for 4 years, because when he went back, they sent him to oh God, he had to go to a horrible place,
Don't tell me Gallipoli.
Salonika.
Oh my God.
And then Palestine. So he went all over the place, but he was only, I think he was in the Pioneer Corps, so he probably used to dig the trenches. He probably used to dig the trenches. But anyway, thank you for that. It's interesting.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. And anything you would like to say, Bill? I think Bill's
sorry,
dead.
Bill. He's got to go out, hasn't he?
Where's Bill?
Bill,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
come back.
Anything you'd like to say, Billy?
No, thanks, Carl. It's a simple but complex subject all rolled up into one, isn't it? I think so. I'm getting my head around it all. There are lines and lines and lines.
Lines
Obviously,
and
obviously
lines.
more about that next week, and we're going to even try and chuck Adrian's wall in there somehow.
Yeah,
So more about
okay.
that next week. Anyway, thanks for that, Bill. Right, anything you'd like to say, Richard?
Well, just when you're going on about the trenches being mainly straight, and I know especially towards the later years of the First World War, the trenches were angled and with right angles and zigzags in them.
No, I was being patronising, Richard. Said not straight at all.
No,
Yeah, but yeah,
so you
yeah,
were
carry
saying
on.
this.
Yeah, you're right, Richard. Obviously, if you've got a straight line, then the enemy can get at that trench with its artillery fire. But obviously, if it's all over the place, yeah, you're right. Can't get at you.
Okay.
Are
So,
you joining us?
Yeah. Bye-bye. Is it bye-bye
Bye.
time?
Bye,
Bill,
Bill.
we'll see you next week. Take
Yeah,
care, Bill.
okay then. Cheers
Take
then.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, Bill. Take care, Bill. Right. So, right, you guys are going to do the next session, yeah?
What is it?
I've got to go.
It's
You better go.
Richard. I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, so we're doing it online.
Yeah. Apparently, Kate, Pete, Kathy, and Kate, Ruth will all be over your place next week.
Oh, nice.
Because Pauline invited them over and she bakes them all a cake.
I don't know, you're getting me
I'm
into trouble.
gonna make a cup of coffee, I think, because I've been sitting here, haven't I?
All right then, Richard. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Have
We're
a
going to
little
take
chat to Goff.
I gotta make a coffee.
So long.
Oh, all right then. Go on.
See you,
then.
Richard. Goff, we'll be with the Woolwich now.
Okay.
And yes, there we go. I gotta have some Captain's Morgan. Mm. God, Goff. I absolutely hate rum. Right. Right, okay. Where's the kettle? Oh, right, okay. Starry, starry night. Paint your phallus blue and grey. I'm just waiting for the kettle to boil. How's your week been, Goff?
Oh, fine, thank you. Yeah, very good.
And guess who's just joined us?
Henry,
Henri.
very good. More the merrier.
Well, you know, he brings a French perspective into it. Bonjour, Henri.
Hello.
Parlez-vous français, oui?
There's been a wee technical problem.
Mon corps résiste encore.
The frost has got into the cable.
Really? Has it?
There we go.
Has it really got into the cable?
I don't know. The internet in Wick is not working at all today.
All right.
Anyway, let me just.
I've had to gargle with some Captain's Morgans.
Oh, good. I'm just trying some white wine at the moment.
Right. So The thing is, right,
That's very nice.
right. The thing is, it's got to, yeah. There's actually Barty the Spice, which is a clear spirit. So I'm thinking it's got to be the molasses that gives it this dark color.
And also the barrels.
But in the Barty D, it's clear. It's clear rum.
Yeah, but when they put it in the bourbon barrels, they burn
Yeah.
the inside of it, and it gives the colour.
And that gives the color. Yeah. Is it then
Goff
filtered?
knows this.
It's filtered
Seriously.
then, isn't it? Is it filtered?
Oh no, you drink it straight.
So why isn't there any bits in this then?
Oh, you cut. That's why you're tired. You've just had a
Oh.
slug of it.
I'm not tired. I've got to have it for my throat.
Oh, right.
I could recommend other things, but stronger than that.
Yeah.
Fortune
Sips.
is one you want to try. Anne
What's
knows
that?
about Fortune.
Oh,
Porcine.
did you say poor Jean?
No, Porcine.
Oh, poutine. Poutine.
Ah, poutine. Ah,
You can make
Lavard.
that yourself.
Yeah. Is it out of potatoes?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
You just need a
Bit like
colour
vodka.
gas. You just need a colour gas to heat it up and ferment the spirit.
oh.
But you got to be very careful.
Yeah.
If it's too strong, you can go blind.
Oh, God.
oh, get off.
You can.
Yeah, I'm sure. If they make vodka out of potatoes, don't they?
You could go blind by
Anyway,
doing.
I was
you could
just
go-
saying it was my Northern Irish grandfather who was in the trenches.
Ah, right.
My Southern Irish grandfather was too old. He was an old man when he came over here.
What? He was 23. That's old for an Irish
No,
person.
he was 50.
My God, 50. That's a really old for somebody in Ireland, isn't it?
No, he might. Yeah, 50. Because he lived till he was 70. Yeah. But I knew my Northern Irish granddad. He was a lovely man. He was just like that bloke in the SAS, you know. Have you been watching the SAS?
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's really good.
Is it funny?
Hmm?
Is it funny?
Oh, yeah, in places.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a bit of death.
Oh, there's quite a few dead bodies, don't worry.
Is
Yeah.
there?
I mean, it's just, that's it. It's just sheer, you know, what's the
Is
word?
there any drugs in it?
Cheek, you know, the cheek of it. What they did, you know, they had no fear.
Somebody gave me a load of hydrocodone tablets. What the hell are they for?
What happened?
What do you? Honestly,
Lycodromal.
what the hell are these?
They're painkillers.
Oh, right.
Oh my
okay.
God, what are you doing with those?
Well, I was just giving them.
Are they in date?
Oh, yeah, of course they're in bloody date.
What are they for?
Horses.
Yeah, they're in date. Yeah, they're in date.
Mind, I've got, oh, I'm just
I
going
got codeine tablets as well.
So what's happening at the moment? Where is everyone?
I'm here.
Hello, Goff. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Not bad. Bit busy today. So,
I was in Wick earlier on.
oh, did you find anything?
Did I what?
Did you find anything?
No, I went to see one of my friends. He's dying.
Oh dear,
Yeah,
not a good time.
got cancer. Yeah,
Oh, oh,
friend of mine.
oh, I've got a
Wait.
friend. I've got a friend with cancer.
He's got cancer where the sun don't shine.
Oh,
Well, that's not very nice, is it?
no.
He's some
No,
good spirits. We had a glass of Four Bells rum.
yeah.
That's the best rum.
Okay. No, that sounds like it is.
It is.
Right. So,
But Wick looked beautiful, Henry, and very nice.
Yeah, they've decorated it.
Yes, very nice. Nice tree outside the village hall. Very good.
Yeah, I was on Coast Guard duty, so I was a bit busy this afternoon.
All right. All right.
top of the world, yes, sir.
Yeah, looking for pirates. Didn't find any.
Didn't you?
Oh, Coast Guard.
You're
Coast
looking-
Guard. Are you on Coast Guard duty?
And watchkeeper duty. Yeah.
Oh, great. I love the Bristol Channel. I think, oh, that ship now is going to go up to Newport.
Right, folks. Right, what we're going to do. It worked really well on. It worked really well on Tuesday. Because what I was going to do on Tuesday, I was going to look at souterrains in the Neolithic period. But I thought what I need to do is I need to tell you about Orkney by looking at just a standard map. And then what I need to do is just give you some images. And that really went well. I did it that way because on Tuesday my voice was really hoarse and it's still a bit rough today. So we're just gonna see how this goes. And what I'd like to do as well, hang on. So
I tell you
if
what,
I
a
can-
warm drink would be good for you.
I'm having one now.
Oh, right. All right.
So there we go. Right, okay, so here we go. Let's share the screen. And we did have Orkney Isles on here a moment. Oh, map. Yeah, we go. We did have it a minute ago. Map. And there we go. So basically, there we go. We're going to do that. Hang on a minute. Oh, God. Stop. Get rid of that. Off. Okay. Doesn't that look odd? Now, I've been to, I don't know if have any of you guys ever been to Orkney?
No.
Yes. Been to Kirkwall.
Oh,
You must have stopped there on the ferry, did you, to Norway?
Yeah.
oh,
Well, they let you off.
Oh, I had to go to the pub.
Oh, hey, hang on a minute. Shut up. Which one did you go to?
The one on the quayside.
Oh, the hotel type pub. Oh, they only have
That's
people with
right.
money going. Oh God, just let it go. Oh God. Right, okay. I've been to Orkney quite a number of times, all the way from 2012, and obviously I've been there a few times because of the university, and obviously Archaeology Cymru, personal visits and so on. And one thing that I would say about Orkney is it's massively full of archaeology. It's massively full of Neolithic archaeology. And that's what we're focusing on. That's what we're doing at this minute, Neolithic archaeology. It's a massive bank of archaeology from a period that tells us so much about not only Neolithic Orkney, but it also tells us about Neolithic Britain as well. If you were looking at this 12,000 years ago, Orkney would have been connected to the land. And if you were looking at this 8,000 years ago, there was water between John O'Groats and Orkney. However, Orkney then would have basically been one big island. That island there, called Hoy, is the highest area of Orkney.
Oh,
It's an area where they've there's iron. It's one of the only places on Orkney that you can get iron. It's quite a desolate place, Hoy. But 8,000 years ago, Hoy would have been a mountain range, and the rest of this would have just been one big landmass. And that's basically it, one big landmass. But as the years go by about 7,000, 6,000 years ago, the islands that you can see there would have started to exist as individual islands. And what we do find with Orkney is that before these all become individual islands, these were mass numbers of people moving around. I don't know how many people lived in Orkney 8,000, 7,000 years ago, but the population would have been substantial enough to create the thousands of Neolithic archaeological sites that are across this landmass. Now, when you look at this map, a word to the wise if anyone ever goes down to Orkney. If anyone's ever talking about the mainland on Orkney, right? They're not talking about Scotland. They're talking about the big island which has Kirkwall there. That there is the mainland. That's what they're talking about. People in Orkney don't talk about Scotland. That is their Scotland. That's their mainland. I learned that one. And the problem is when I take on accents when I'm acting and when I've been to Orkney, unfortunately I take on a Scottish accent and not an Orcadian accent, and everybody thinks I come from Aberdeen, which doesn't help, considering lots of people on Orkney don't like people from Scotland. Anyway, what I did on sort of Tuesday, I basically took a little bit of a tour of the island. I gave you some place names without any images, and I described them. And then we look at some images at the end. So when we look at the images at the end, you know where I've been looking at. So just to sort of give you an idea of the island, Rousey is one of the bigger islands in the Orkney archipelago. It's full of archaeology, Neolithic archaeology. The island of Ede is a very strange island indeed. It's like one big long spit of an island, and it's full of Neolithic archaeology. Places like Shapinsay and places like Sansay, and basically places like Stronsay, they do have lots of Neolithic archaeology, but not as much as the likes of Rousey and Ede. Now, there are lots of other islands that are very important. Papa Westray is a really important site because there is another Skara Brae on Papa Westray. And when we say another Skara Brae, is not visited by many people, but on Papa Westray, you can only usually get out there by plane. So it's a massively important landscape. One of the key reasons why we do see Orkney itself having so many Neolithic sites still intact is down to population. In about the 1800s, the population of the Orkney archipelago was about 40,000 people. Now it's roughly between about 22 and 25,000 people. So 15,000 people less people today than there was back then. That's had a really interesting and important impact. However, in the Second World War, the population would have been about 40,000 because there's lots of prisoners of war there, and there's lots of navy, there's lots of army based on Orkney. Now, I love Orkney. I love Orkney to bits, and I was actually going to buy a house there, but it didn't go that way because my children came first. But what I'd like to do is basically say, there's Kirkwall Airport, and you would have docked into Kirkwall Harbour. And along the front, where the A is, that's where good old Henry had his point.
Yeah.
It was more than 1 point.
Yeah, Henry, right? We don't talk about your pints of rum.
I've
Go on quick, because I got to go on quick.
oh no, I've come across an interesting fact recently, and I wondered, what would an Asian person be doing born on Stornoway in 1963? Well, was there anything there? And I know somebody who was born on Stromness.
Sailors,
Yeah, maybe.
and why not?
Yeah.
That's not unusual to me. Anyway,
Okay.
not unusual to me. And that was completely on another planet there. You may as well have been talking about your washing machine. The one thing that you do notice when you wander around the island of the mainland itself is that the dominance of upstanding stones. Back to the point I was trying to make earlier on, the reason why there's lots of Neolithic archaeology is down to population, because the population dropped when in other areas they increased, which caused a need for the landscape and removal of lots of monuments. It basically meant that because there was a drop of population on Orkney, lots of the Neolithic sites remained and preserved for generation after generation. Now, this is rather interesting. You look at this little map and it's got places like Windford Hill Carn. Now, that's a very interesting spot. So you drive along this sort of main road, the A965, and you see these little bits of stone sticking out, these little monuments. And I've been to all these sites, the Cween Hill, Chambered Carn. Lots of these places are really, really difficult to get to, but you do eventually get to them. Now, one thing that I would say is just a minor little fact, which is not relevant, is Finnstown was one of the first airports anywhere in Britain. The first airfield anywhere in Britain in the late 1920s. Anyway, thought I'd chuck that in there. So lots of these basic places and locations as you go, and you start to head towards Finnstown, and you start to come to a familiar place with a name, Ring of Brodgar. Now, this is a massively fascinating landscape. One of the things is that you see Mice How. Mice How is a mound, is a chamber that was used in the Neolithic period, is a chamber that was used in the Viking period. Mice How is a very fascinating site in that it probably the burial, the chamber there occupies a former stone circle site, and you go just down the road, or a stone throw, and you actually come down to this place known as Stennes. And you've got, it says Barnhouse Stone. There's lots of stones around it. The landscape's dotted with stones. Now, Barnhouse settlement, that's a Neolithic settlement as well. All of these monuments that we're talking about are Neolithic monuments. And do you know what we're going to do? we're going to settle into something that I mentioned very subtly on Tuesday. So you've got the site of Maes Howe there. You can see Maes Howe there in the top right-hand corner. And I was reminded of the fact that when the original Viking population got to Orkney, Orkney was probably completely abandoned. Most of the islands were abandoned. We don't know why that is. And any small populations that were left sort of were more or less saved by the Vikings. You know, they become part of the Viking population. And the Vikings so respected the Neolithic landscape that they left most of it. And Maes Howe is a very interesting one. What they did, they found, now this is a rather interesting story, they found a chamber here. And probably around the 600s, they buried one of their leaders in Maes Howe. And then about 200 years later, more Vikings come over and looked at Maes Howe, emptied the burial chamber for all its goodies from a previous Viking leader. And they graffitied in it. And they basically said, this is wonderful Orkney. In runic script, this is wonderful Orkney. And they would say, I visited here. And there's a couple of descriptions carved in there saying that a certain gentleman brought a woman in there and he had his wicked way with her. But consensually wicked way. But the Vikings seem to connect with this stony landscape and all these stones, and this is why lots of the stones have survived. And because Vikings come from a landscape that is very timbery, right? Most of their buildings are built out of stone, you know, and most of their buildings, you know, are made of organic, you know, sods of earth and so on. By seeing all these stones, they marveled over what people had left before. And I think that's a really, really important point. That's why lots of this stuff has actually survived. Back to this place known as the Standing Stones of Stenness and Barnhouse. This is really, really interesting because what you start to see is lots of Neolithic sites very close to each other. Barnhouse itself is a Neolithic settlement that isn't as well preserved as Papa Westray and isn't as well preserved as Skara Brae, but it's a Neolithic site. And what archaeologists used to think was that the Standing Stones of Stenness and the standing stone, the Odin standing stone that is on that promontory there was actually two initially, one with a hole carved into it. All of these looked out onto moorland rather than a lake, rather than a loch. And what we are finding now is that this loch here, the two lochs on the either side of the Ring of Brodgar, or the Ness of Brodgar, the Loch of Harre and the Loch of Stenness. This was all marshy ground, and this was all flat ground, and it was used for farming, monuments, you know, settlements. And they started surveying both lochs, and I actually started to find all the evidence. So, you know, it's there. It's there for archaeologists to explore on another day. And the Ness of Brodgar is a wonderful set of archaeological excavations. And the guy who runs the Ness of Brodgar is a guy called Nick Card. And I fell out with Nick Card because Bill had a row with him. And basically I ended up going to Bill's defense, and Nick didn't like me after that. But Anne, is it unusual that Bill caused trouble?
Yeah. No. Yes. It is unusual.
Basically what it was, Bill was told by one of the university lecturers that he could see a monument which is also on Nick Card's land, but he didn't knock Nick Card's door first. So yeah, anyway, yeah, so it upset him. But anyway, Nick Card, the archaeologist, owns the Ness of Brodgar site, and lots of other archaeological sites. He's a Shetland sheep farmer, and guess who's also got Shetland sheep?
You.
What? So yes, we do have something in common.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed that you put out some Shetland sheep Christmas cards because I got a sheep picture like that. But they're not Shetland, they're Welsh.
Well, aren't you going to buy any of those cards?
I don't know.
Well, you better make your bloody mind up because Christmas is coming.
I've not seen any of them.
Hang on a minute. Didn't you have the
Didn't you have
the Christmas thing through the post?
No.
Oh right.
Postal strike.
I will show you. I will show you the sheep cards, and if you do want any, we'll have a chat about that in a short while. But anyway, the Ness of Brodgar, a massive, fascinating archaeological site, and the Ness of Brodgar itself is believed that the Ness itself was occupied down into the Mesolithic period, and is basically so full of archaeology. That Nick Card's going to be excavating there for a very, very long time. What's that, darling?
It's not far from the Bay of Ireland.
Who?
Bay of Ireland?
Bay of Ireland. If you look on the map.
Oh, yeah.
Just to the left of Colston is the Bay of Ireland, and you've got Ireland Road runs up through it. So the Irish have been there a lot.
Oh, yeah. My
but
grandfather was
also,
there in the war.
Also, somebody else has been there as well.
Me.
Oh, that's you, is it?
My granddad was there turning all the signs around.
How many granddads got? Bloody hell.
He was in the dad's army, you know.
I thought he was
Pioneer Corps, really.
I thought he was in the trenches.
Huh?
I thought he was in the trenches.
That's not a very nice word in the middle.
One minute he's in the trenches, then he's in Salonika, then he's...
Ah, this is World War II.
Oh,
He was too old. He was too old, really, but they let him go and do some pioneering work in Orkney because he was from Northern Ireland. So they sent him over in a boat.
I've only got two granddads.
Hey, do you know what? Right? Do you know what? I went to that there, and I was standing alongside the sign, and everyone was pointing towards me. I don't know why. Anyway, thanks, Anne. I really appreciate that. Right? Okay, let's get back to the Ring of Brodgar. Right? Oh my God! So obviously the Ring of Brodgar is a large UNESCO heritage site. And basically, as you sort of wander down this road, the Ring of Brodgar itself, is an amazing site. For me, it's the largest. It's one of the largest. I think it's the second largest stone circle site in Britain after Avebury, right? And I'm very much connected to the Ring of Brodgar, and I will tell you why I'm very much connected to the Ring of Brodgar. When we look at an image of the Ring of Brodgar, it does involve full frontal nudity and Kathy, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But the Ring of Brodgar itself, what we do see on Orkney is the Neolithic stuff is a lot earlier than anywhere else in Britain in sense of technology. We've got the first chambers, we've got the first standing stone circles, we've got the first clay pottery, we got the first burnt mound sites, we got the first this, we got the first that, and we got the first people running naked around the Ring of Brodgar. And the point is, when you go to something like this, it's there's the word no means mound, so there's lots of mounds around it. So you go
like
what?
no. Well, a bit like no.
A bit like no. Top of the word, yes, sir.
No.
top of the world, right? Basically, I'm just basically showing you this is because these locations called Buchan, Buchan Khan, and Buchan Chambered Tomb. That's what Bill was looking at that day, and that's all owned by Nick Card. And we do believe that the Buchan Chambered Tomb is actually where a stone circle site is as well. So, you know, and as you start to go up and sort of, you've got all these monuments across the landscape, a few sites associated with the word Buchan and the ring and the mound and so on. But but as you start to go across the island, it's so full of monuments that it's difficult to know where to stop and where to go to. Skara Brae is the famous site on Orkney. If I was to do a top 10 of the most important Neolithic monuments in the world, right, Skara Brae would be on it, would be in the top 10. It would be alongside Chattel Hayek, which is another Neolithic site. Skara Brae would actually be up there. It's a massively important site, and it's not unique because there's another site like Skara Brae on Papa Westray. And also what you do see is that there is a little bit further on towards that weird little spit there, is actually another iron outcrop. However, there wouldn't have been a bay near Skara Brae back in the day, and we'll talk about that in a short while, but we're still looking at this plan, this map of the islands. And as you sort of drive around and you keep going around the island, Bursay, Earl's Palace, the Brough of Bursay, I love that place. It's full of history from all periods. Viking history, Pictish history, medieval history, Neolithic history. It's got history throughout all the ages. It's a tidal island, and it's probably not a good place to go to in the winter months because you can get easily trapped like Sully Island. If you follow along
it's a pity you went in the winter months, really. It's a pity you couldn't go, you know, more warmer time of year.
And can I just tell you one reason why? I'll give you two reasons why.
Cheap.
The first reason is tourists,
Yeah,
right?
you would have met Henry in the bar.
And I would have met Henry being pissed in the bar. It's all down to tourists. It's full of tourists, and if you go on the other time of year, you can sort of get an idea of the island and get more of a connection with the island at different times of the year. That's basically it. Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
Anyway, we go to the Broch of Gurnis. This is an Iron Age Pictish site, the Broch of Gurnis, but then it looks over to this place known as Rousey. Now, Rousey is a hugely immense, massive, culturally dynamic. It tells you everything, not just about Orkney, but it tells you about Scotland. And I'll just tell you a little bit of a story that when in the 1800s, I think it was the early 1800s, the lord who owned the island basically said to all the villagers, you got to go. And he kicked them out. He kicked them off his land, right? And they said, we got nowhere to go. And he said, oh, well, just go and live in the hills. And they lived in the hills and they made life work. And they built more houses further up in the hills, and they built their reams and drainage and all the rest of it. And the reason why they're saying that's sort of the Scottish thing is that one minute everything's okay in Scotland, it's a hard life. And then this great landowner comes in and says, right, you can get off the land, we'll replace you with sheep. And your life gets even harder. And the other thing as well is people leave the islands as well. But there's still a suitable population in Rousey. It's also where I get up close to Bill this one day, right? We meet the county archaeologist, and she says, oh, I've got a burial chamber on my mound, right? So basically we go into this really tight hole into this burial chamber, right? And we can't get out because a dog is at the entrance growling at us. And we end up staying there for about 20 to 30 minutes, missing out on the whiskey that everyone else is drinking. So that's when I get up and close with Bill. But
What a shame.
and it was actually that that Scottish whiskey, that Le Bock stuff. What's it called?
Lafrague.
Oh,
Lafrague. It was Lafrague whiskey. It was Lafrague.
Yeah,
The
it's
really
not,
expensive stuff.
it's not as good as Irish.
Shut up, you tart.
no, it's not as good as Irish. You're right. I've heard that before.
Lafrague. No, Lafrague's better, apparently. Anyway, the whole of the White Horses is a nudist landscape, but we won't talk why. But anyway, Midhow Broch, is an amazing place because there's this sort of Iron Age tower remains there, but the Midhow tomb and chambered cairn is out of this world, because what they did in the 1940s, late 1940s, they actually built an aircraft hangar over the over Midhow tomb, so you can actually look around it with an aircraft hangar over your head. It's great. It's brilliant. And the other thing about this island is that the Lord Renfrew, Colin Renfrew, who was actually knighted, not knighted. No, he was given a lordship because he was an archaeologist, right? He became a lord of archaeology, right? You can't make it up, can you? Lord Colin Renfrew, he argued that each of the chambers on the island, because there's lots of them, each of the chambers was related to a community. And if you looked at a map, it would show lots of chambers on the island, which is not right. Black Hammer Chamber, for example, had a community associated with it, and the chamber at Turso had a community associated with it. So one of the things that we do know is that, you know, Rousey is sort of a stereotypical site. So we will be looking at some images in a few moments, but what we need to do is go to one other island, and we're not going to go to, hang on, I got to make sure I get the right island. No, I get some of these islands. Is it Sanzay? Yeah, Sanzay, right. Now we ended up going to the island of Sanzay on the ferry. And one interesting fact about the island of Sanzay, it's got the Orkney Islands only railway. Somebody decided to start building a railway in a place called Braeswick, and when they started building a railway, it wasn't really big enough, so it didn't last long, and it became a tourist attraction. So when we were on the minibus, I said, let's go and see the railway, and it closed it down. Anyway, long story short, we go around the island, and one of the places that we actually go to is Scar Bay, right? And this is a really interesting landscape, because when we go to Scar Bay, it's not only the place where they found Julie Gibson, that's the county archaeologist, Julie Gibson, reported finding a Viking ship burial, right, a boat burial, and a sword, and it was found at Scar Bay. It's known as a Scar Bay Viking burial. It was found just in the sands and muds, and it was being eroded. So that's what they excavated. And also an amazing thing, I'll just describe it. I haven't got the images with me today, but I might be able to dig them out in the future. One thing about Scar Bay is that there was an area, and you looked at this cliff, and it was full of layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of archaeology, which had been eroded into the sea. And the lowest layer was Mesolithic. And then above that was the Neolithic. And above that, then obviously the Bronze Age and the and the Iron Age, and it was just like a massive midden. And I remember pointing over and I said, over by there is the spinal column of a baby in this midden. And I remember telling everybody this, and it's like, oh, what are you going to do about it, Karl? And I said, nothing. It's going to stay there. Because the problem is that Sanday's got an archaeological sort of group, and it was their sort of little baby. Sorry about the pun, but it was so hard to tell everybody, don't take any pottery, don't take any artifacts, because if they had, it would have taken it out of the context. I know it was slowly being eroded into the sea, but if anyone else went there, they would know the layers where everything came from. And it was like looking at a book. It was like looking at history. It was like living history. Bones, shells, animal, human remains, pottery, burnt sod, burnt turf, burnt wood, everything. It was unbelievable. It was massive. So what we are going to do now, we're actually going to look at some images, and it's just going to be a bit ad hoc. But what we will do is tell you a few little stories about some of the images that we're going to look at. And in future, when we do come back and look at the Orkney, you can say, oh, well, Karl, you told us about this, yeah? And you remember then, and you told us about E-Day having loads of archaeology, Papa Westray being the other site, like Skara Brae. But what I'm going to do, instead of sort of going to Papa Westray last, as I did on Wednesday, as I did on Tuesday, Papa Westray village, right? We're going to look at the one village that we don't usually think of as being world renowned, but it is. And here we go. This here is one of the buildings associated with the village of Papa Westray. Now, I want to do a whole lecture on this site, but I just want to show you it. You can ask me. I've been to Westray Island, Hoy, Rousey, Sanday, Staffensay, Shippensay. I've been to another one. I've been and all the mainland stuff, and I have not been to North Ronaldsley. I've been to South Ronaldsley, and I've not been to Papa Westray. I'd love to go to Papa Westray, but unfortunately, you need to fly out there, and I'm not really too keen on planes. After when we did fly on one of the trips that we actually flew to, when we flew to Orkney from, I think it was Aberdeen, or was it Edinburgh? Yeah, it was Edinburgh. I think it was. I think it was from Edinburgh. Yeah, because we had to go from Cardiff to Edinburgh and then Edinburgh to Kirkwall. And basically, we were told that Edinburgh to Kirkwall would take like 50 minutes. 2 hours later, as we were going around the island over and over again, right? Flying around the island. It come out on the Tannoy. Oh, sorry, there's turbulence. And it was a beautiful day. So after 2 hours, as we landed, the pilot come on the Tannoy and said, sorry about that. I didn't want to stress any of you out, right? But the landing gear wasn't working, right? So we had to send the co-pilot down into the landing gear to push the tire out, right? Because it wasn't coming out. He had to crank it out, and it took him a whole hour to do it. And if that hadn't, we were then told that we would have had to have landed in the sea.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't come with you.
Well, that was the day that Clive had said that he'd never been on a plane in his life before or something, and he will never go on a plane again because he was petrified of them. And he took his son with him, who was spewing up all over the plane. So it's quite an adventure.
Yes, I can imagine.
Kathy was moaning about the smell of the sick. And I was involved in a bit of peanuts.
What?
Peanuts. Peanuts. You thought I meant something else, you dirty-minded woman. Right, anyway. Look at this as well. This itself is Papa Westray. This is how Skara Brae. This is how Skara Brae would have looked.
Yeah.
Hasn't he got another name?
Oh.
Yes, it does.
Hmm.
The know of how.
There you go. The nap.
Yeah, the nap of how, the know of how, the nap of how. Yeah. So it would be the know because of the nap of how. Yeah. Shut up, you. But what I was saying,
Mound.
it would have been a mound at once.
Yeah.
You know, I used to dream of mounds when I was a child, when I used to have a Samantha Fox pillow. But the main thing as well is, right, this is a little bit what Skara Brae looked like after the excavations of Gordon Child. But because it's off the tourist route, it's not, nobody really goes there. But I wanted to show you this before we actually look at Skara Brae. Now, what I am going to do is take another slurp of my tea. And, oh, it's nothing left. Bugger. And what we're going to do, as we did on Tuesday,
You can go there by ferry.
I think you can, but it's a very choppy journey. And I think there's like one ferry a decade or something going there.
Tomorrow. Called,
do they?
Yeah.
What, you're going to go out there, are you? How long's the journey from Kirkwall? About 3 hours, isn't it?
Can't tell at the moment. You have to row, but anyway, carry on.
Oh.
Right. So what we're going to type on now is Orkney Neolithic sites. Right, and there we go. Build missing all of this, right? So all of these, we can have a look at all of these. It's a nice little sort of nice little lot of images, right? As we sort of look through these, we will have a look. And the Ness of Brodgar, right? Now, I'm going to give you two perspectives on the Ness of Brodgar. The Ness of Brodgar, for me, when I first went there, I just felt, oh, it's just a stone circle site, right? And after going to the Ring of Stennis, right, which I felt was amazing, and after going to Maes Howe, I just thought, you know, it's a stone circle site, right? And the reason why I thought that, it was full of tourists. You had all these Yankees running around going, look at that there. Oh, no, that's a Dorset accent, isn't it? They were going, there was this one Yankee, right? He said to his son said, oh, Dad, how old is this ring, right? And the father said, oh, it can't be more than 1,000 years old because, you know, we don't have things as old as 4,000 years or 5,000 years in the Bible, right? So I thought, oh, God, I can't handle any of this nonsense. Right, anyway, a few years later, I saw the majesty and greatness of the Ring of Brodgar for real. I was going up there with Michelle and my son Owen, right? And we were in my little black Peugeot. I used to love my little black Peugeot, but that's another story. And we drove up there. We got off the ferry, and I decided to drive to the Ring of Brodgar straight away. And when we got to the Ring of Brodgar, Michelle was asleep in the car and my son was dozing off. And I said to my son, look, you know your dad's weird. You're 18 now, right? So I thought, right, sorry, I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to strip my clothes off and I'm going to run naked around the Ring of Brodgar, right? And I did. And then suddenly something happened, right? There was no sharp stones under my feet, right? It was a beautiful night sky. There were no tourists there. There was these massive stones in front of me. There was a ditch. It was utter silence, and it was utter connected to the prehistoric period. And I was completely stark naked, right? And it was an amazing experience to actually look at the Ring of Brodgar with no tourists. And yeah, I do weird things completely stark naked, but it was an amazing experience. Yeah, don't worry about my son. I told him to put his fingers over his eyes as I ran out the car naked. So he's okay. And he was 18, so that's okay. But the fact of the matter is, I really experienced the Ring of Brodgar as a prehistoric monument because there were no tourists around, and I absolutely loved it. Where Kathy comes into this, when we go on one trip, I do believe that Kathy runs around the ring naked as well. She professes that she ran around the ring naked.
Yeah.
But she wasn't.
did.
I think she did. She said that she did run around the ring naked, but I didn't chase her around the Ring of Brodgar naked, which is a completely different thing altogether. But when you actually look from the Ring of Brodgar, you can actually see little bits of ground sticking out, and it's sort of, yeah, that itself would have been part of dry land at one stage, but unfortunately now that stuff is underwater, and it's a beautiful sight. The Ring of Brodgar, it really, really is.
Underwater.
Well, no, the Ring of Brodgar isn't underwater, but all the other stuff we do. We have. They've done surveys, and they've actually found stone circles underneath the water there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm glad you agree, Anne. I really am.
All right.
Is
there any oil on Orkney?
No,
No,
but there
I
is
mean,
on Shetland.
Did they use Orkney as an oil?
No, Shetland.
Or Shetland. Oh, yeah.
It's Shetland. And I'm just gonna say one thing. Shetland itself is, the problem is with Shetland, until it was only in the 1980s, mid 1980s, that they actually had an archaeologist working on the island. And there's reports that whole Iron Age, Viking period sites were just demolished to make the refineries and the roads and everything on Shetland. That didn't happen with Orkney because Orkney doesn't have oil.
It's heartbreaking. Who's that?
Well, that guy is venturing out. That guy is venturing out of Mice Howe.
Oh, right.
Oh, can I lead you into another story, Anne? Right. I bumped into this woman that I was quite fond of on Orkney, right? And I didn't see her again. What? As you do. And I didn't see her again until my last day this one time when I was on Orkney. And we went into the churchyard and we rolled around kissing. It was a wonderful experience.
Oh.
Unfortunately,
that's why I didn't come with you, you see.
You were. Yeah, you were a bit afraid.
Yeah.
The thing is, it was a beautiful experience. Rolling around in a cemetery, kissing this beautiful Scottish woman.
Oh.
Anyway, mind you, she was waiting for a boyfriend to turn up in Kirkwall, so we couldn't spend long.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this itself is Mice Howe, and again, doing another talk on Mice Howe. Mice Howe is that beautiful monument, again, a Neolithic monument. You might be thinking, where is all the other historical periods represented on Orkney? It's got its Brochts, for example. It's got its Iron Age villages. It's got its Bronze Age stuff. It's got its Mesolithic stuff. But we are doing the Neolithic period. This is a thing. We're looking at the Neolithic period. Mice Howe, we know where Mice Howe is. And
Mound.
What?
Mounds.
Mice Howe, mound, yeah, exactly. This itself, this is a small stone circle at the Ring of Stennes. And there's another story about this ring. When we first saw it, it was the first time that we bumped into Martin Carruthers, the archaeologist from the university. And when we saw this, it was magical because, you know, there wasn't too many stones there, but the tops of the stones had seemingly been shaped.
Yeah.
And it's
so modern looking. It's so
modern.
Scandinavian, you know. Not like our stones in
Look at those.
yeah, they are different.
And what it is that when you basically there's lots of sandstone and it sort of breaks off in shelves. And sometimes when you break them, you've got this triangular knob at the end. But
it must have been quite a feat to make them stand, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh God, we're not denying that. Of course it was a massive feat. Yeah, of course it was. No, it's an amazing sort of landscape. Yeah, and there would have been a ditch around it like there would have been at the Ring of Brodgar, but these stones are very different. And we believe that each of these stones may have represented a family group on the island. And we've got to remember that this monument itself is probably built maybe at a different time than the Ring of Brodgar, but probably by the same people. And it was just fascinating looking at these. As you can see, the people there, these stones dwarf those people. And again, you are spoiled for choice on the Ring of Brodgar. You are spoiled for choice on the Ness of Brodgar. You are spoiled for choice looking at the Ring of Stennes. You are spoiled for choice when you go to Orkney. It's so full of little treats and nuggets and little wonderful bits of information. And then we go to what Orkney's known for. It's known for the site of Skara Brae, which we're going to have a look at. So here we go. This is one of 8 buildings excavated at Skara Brae. I've done a number of videos on YouTube. So if you go to my channel, you can see me talking about Skara Brae, and absolutely beautiful site. And it's within these buildings, there's no windows, except when the site was originally excavated by Gordon Child in the 1920s, 30s. His niece was there. And you can imagine his niece is saying, "Uncle, uncle, uncle, I want a window in this house." And he decided to take a few stones out and put a window in the house for her to look out to see. Which is quite bizarre indeed. Somebody asked me about the level of the roof inside here. And it's likely that what you're looking at there is basically close to the original roof level. Close to the original roof level, not too far. And it would have then had varying timbers lashed together and maybe whale bones lashed together to create the purlins and the timbers for the roof. Do you know what? I had the problem the other day. I had 2 bits of wood and I needed to produce a beam for the new sheep shed, right? And they're only little sheeps. They're tiny little dotty little sheeps. My Shetland. I was cuddling one today and doing her hooves, and they're half the size as normal sheep. But this bit of wood needed to be 4 meters in length. I already had one length of wood that was 4 meters. I need another one, so I lashed 2 bits together, and I basically made a frame to lash the 2 bits of wood together. And I created a beam that was close as strong as the other beam. And this is what they were doing in the past as well. If they didn't have long bits of wood being washed up on shore, because at this stage in the Neolithic 6,000 years ago, most of the long timbers on the island are either died, decayed, been cut down, or weren't going to be cut down, right? So they had to make the roof timbers to actually span this. And they probably used skins, and they may have used sods of earth on the roof. And it's very difficult. The hardest thing to build on a structure is actually a roof. You know, I've actually been building my little house, which is 6.5 meters in diameter, and it's obviously bigger than this, but the roof has been the hardest thing to build. Everything else has been a walk in the park. But I might actually show you an image, and we might actually have a little bit of a break in a short while, because what I want to do is I want to show you Mid-How at least, but we haven't really finished at this site, because I want to show you a little image of the landscape that is Skara Brae. So if we go to here, and here we go. Right, Skara Brae Prehistoric Village. It's a wonderful site. And Anne, I'll tell you a story about Owen at the site, right? When we took Owen with us,
All right.
he said, "Oh, Dad, can I look at Skara Brae?" I said, "Oh, I don't want to look at Skara Brae, because we were going somewhere else." So I dropped him off, right?
Yeah.
He forgot to take money with him.
Oh.
So he jumped over the fence and he went looking around the site. And then they sent staff from Scottish Heritage over there to extract him off the site.
Oh dear.
So he looked around the site. And then they chased him off.
Yeah.
And when we turned up at the car park to pick him up, it was Dad, we gotta go. So he jumped into the car. I tell you what, Anne, that's a chip off the old block.
Yeah. That's right. He is definitely.
And basically, can I tell you a little bit of a story about Emily, right? Emily starting to spray can her logo on different bridges and monuments, right?
Oh.
She loves breaking the law. So,
Oh no.
yeah, she's taken after her dad as well.
Oh.
And
Oh.
if they didn't do these naughty things, they wouldn't be my children, would they?
No. No, of course not.
By looking at this plan, it's basically a subterranean village. That there is a street, a little street, another little street. This is a workshop. Now, what we do know, in about 1850, there was a storm that blew up, and I think the name Patterson rings a bell anyway. A storm blew up, and there were other houses that were eroded into the sea. And they thought that this village was actually built by the little people. And the one thing about this village is that we know it was probably 2 or 3 times bigger than it is today. And this is exactly the same type of site that we say on Papa Westray. There would have been lots of these sites initially. The sea would have been at least 1 kilometre further out, but a massively important Neolithic site. And would you like to say something before we have a
it's only that it always reminds me of Kaya-Uwe, in Cornwall.
Oh,
Of
yeah,
course,
it
it's
does.
much smaller, Kaya-Uwe, but
Yeah.
do you think there's any, possibility that Kaya-Uwe was earlier
Yes.
than they think it is?
Yeah, and also,
I mean, this is much bigger,
yes.
but
Yes.
it's souterrain, isn't it? It's underneath the sea.
Yeah, it's souterrain. This is what we're going
Yeah.
to do tonight. We were going to look at a souterrain site, but I just thought what I wanted to do was to sort of give them a bigger impression, a bigger idea, a bigger sort of vista of this world,
Yeah.
So
Well, we never know. It might turn out to be older. But this is fascinating.
It's definitely 6,000. It's definitely a lecture in itself. You know, about the beads being left and the excavation used. A massively important site that was excavated by Gordon Child. What we are going to do, we're going to take a little bit of a break, because what I'm going to do is get a little bit of a drink. But before we do that, I want to show you an image of the building I'm building. Right, so I want to show you that. I actually put I actually put a stove in today with a flue, so I'm dead impressed. Yes, I can build houses.
Oh,
Have you got planning permission?
it's his land.
No, he still needs planning permission.
Oh. Oh, I
got-
forgot you were a solicitor, weren't you?
You've got to meet planning regulations.
And there it is.
Oh. Oh.
There I'm making progress.
All right. Oh. Oh, well, of course, we had a problem in McCuntler, or, well, somewhere near there. There's somebody built a house, didn't they? A roundhouse. It's that area for doing things like that.
As long as things are temporary, and as long as by the end of the planning process you've taken the thing down, then there's no damage done. Right, and the other thing as well is, right, these are the cards.
Oh yeah.
That's my beautiful Mauer. She's lovely and cuddly, right?
Did your wife do? Did Michelle do them?
Yes.
Oh.
Now, if you want any of these cards, right, you need to let me know. They're printed on really good quality cards. They're not cheap, but we can get you some before Christmas with envelopes.
No, it's all right.
I was asking Henry, not you.
I've already sent all my cards.
Well, why did you even ask, you blooming nuggets?
Because you never offered in the first place.
I thought we'd sent you a list in the post.
No.
Yeah.
You didn't get the list either, Goff.
No.
No,
I'm actually
the
doing,
boys in the Vale
I'm
don't
doing
get
my
anything.
own Christmas card.
Hang on a minute. Do you know what I'm going to do? We're going to have a really, really quick break, because we're not far from the end anyway. I just want to check for the boys whether they were sent a list.
I was sent one.
Yeah, but now the boys are feeling left out. I just got to double check that they were on the list. Yeah, and you've really dropped me in the shit now. You have. Hang on a minute, because they're going to feel they're going to feel unloved.
How much are they? £12.
Well, yeah, we can send them with envelopes for £12. The problem is because they're individually printed, so we only have 50 done. So
I'll have one. I'll have one.
You'll have one.
And Henry will have one as an example of your sheep.
Well, you can.
No.
Okay, if you want one, then they're £1.50. Okay.
All right.
For 12.
No.
For one. Hey, do you know what? I got a phone call at 9 o'clock. My cousin's phoning me from Brighton.
Hang on a minute. I'm going through the list.
I thought I dropped that.
Oh my bloody God.
I have got some family in England.
Oh, we haven't sent out any to the Vale of Glamorgan. If you want,
we've been victimised.
Yeah, you have been victimised.
Isn't it? You just ask Jim,
Oh, he wants £12 for them.
Come on, hurry up. I want to fill my glass of wine up.
Come on, get your drink, Carl.
Right, all right, shut up.
Too late now.
Oh God, I've upset everyone now.
It's Christmas. No, not really.
Oh,
wouldn't have
God.
paid £1.50 for them anyway.
What's that?
I wouldn't have paid £1.50.
Well, shh. There's other stuff on the list as well. I feel
Oh,
all embarrassed
Yeah,
now.
yeah, there is. No, don't worry. Just carry on with
What's
your
the other stuff?
carry on.
all right for you, Anne. You got yours.
Oh, for God's sake. Right. We will be sending you, Rona will be sending you a list. Right. So,
Oh, lovely Rona.
right. We're going to have a quick break. Quick break.
That's my Christmas card. Well,
That's
I
nice.
did a lino print of elderberries, but I don't like it with black. It's not black and white. It's supposed to be black and white.
Black is black. Black is black. I want your baby back.
I could do them.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
My daughter said, Mum, she said, why don't you do a Christmas card and show
Right.
people
You talk about your Christmas card. I'm going to get a drink.
show people your talent? I said, oh God. She likes my little drawings and things, but I'm like Carl, I'm embarrassed. It's
Oh.
Everybody's different, aren't they? Everyone's
Well, you've got special needs.
Hmm?
You got special needs.
I think I have actually. I was just thinking of that today.
What, that you got special needs?
Well, no, it's all right. I won't go there.
What? Because you got special needs?
No. Oh, Goff. Goff,
Yeah.
Golf.
are you all
Goff.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right.
Goff's got Goff doesn't
to-
want to feel left out. He's got special needs as well.
Oh, what is the West Island Airport,
Closed.
Henry? West Island. Oh, I went to knock, you see.
It's Cork, innit?
No, it's I think it's Galway or Limerick or somewhere. Shannon, maybe.
Shannon Airport.
Yeah.
Right, folks. Okay, right, folks. What we're going to do, we're going to do our last saunter now. By the way, you two are actually on the list. It was on the other list, so you will be getting something through. Right, so I'm going to do the last bit now. My voice is getting very croaky. And we've got somebody online called David E. Jones. He said, thank you for sharing your knowledge tonight, Carl. Really enjoying the personal stories too. Well, I think he's referring to some of Anne's personal stories as well.
David Jones.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
He's the son of Mr. Jones.
Actually, my grandmother was a Jones.
Oh, flipping heck. Here we go. Was she in the trenches as well?
No, no, she was a Jones from Llanfeddryn.
Garth,
Yeah.
I'm going to see if Anne reacts to this. Did you know that I was actually, oh God. Oh, Anne, hang on, I've lost it now.
Yeah,
I was an
it's a
escort.
lie.
I was a male escort, I was.
Yeah.
I used to get paid 160 quid an hour, right?
But you only
And
took it.
I'm expecting you to respond and say that you know you've got a relative who did that as well.
Her granddad.
No, he did it. He did do it. I know. I was nearly asked to be. I was told.
I used to own an escort. It's a nice car.
This was a few years ago.
They've got a Fiesta there.
But I was told that I could make a lot of money.
Sitting on a gold mine now.
He could put me in touch with you know, people who wanted escorts, things, you know. But no, Carl did it.
Yes, but we won't. Yeah, basically, there was a lot of big women, and yeah. Anyway, let's just crack on with the last bit. So, I wanted to take you to two other sites on Orkney, and they're quite significant. And one of the other sites on Orkney. So, if we go to the little share bar again, and there we go, and we will know where the site of Mid Howe is. And we're going to type in Mid Howe, and obviously by now you'll know what the word Howe means. It means mound. So Mid Howe itself is an absolutely amazing site. It's actually the photograph of this is actually in the Ancient Britain book. And what it is when they excavated it, they actually put an aircraft hangar over it. So you can actually, there's two sets of walk boards. So you can wander down one and you can wander down the other one. And Mid Howe itself is known as a chambered stall cairn, or different ways of sort of referring to that, but it's a stalled cairn. And what it is that when you actually look down, there were little shelves in between these stalls. So you can see some of the shelves. And when they originally excavated it, they found bits of human remain underneath them. And on top, they had more fuller human remains. And what we do believe the story is in the Neolithic period, they would put people to decompose on the shelf above. Yeah. And when they're decomposed enough, they would have put them underneath, which isn't actually too far different from a modern cemetery today, where you've got a graveyard. And you would dig a grave, and then 300 years later, you'd dig again, and you'd get rid of some of those bones. You'd put another grave in there. That's not too different. And this is an amazing, fascinating site on the island of Rousey. And just a little bit of a snippet of the story, and maybe we might actually visit this site in detail. But one of the stories is that, hang on, if we get that one. Look how long this is. On the far end, there's about half a dozen stalls on each side, a bit more than that. On the far end, it was like a stone platform. But when the site had been forgotten about by the Iron Age, what the people in the Iron Age did, they dug into the chamber below, and they used it as a pantry. So you can imagine they're putting their butter and their cheese alongside shelves that had held human remains. And I always felt this actually fascinating that they're actually reusing this. And you could sort of say this is a bit of a souterrain type underground building as well. So again, another massive, fascinating site. But we were going to go to the Tomb of the Eagles, but we're not going to go there yet. We're just going to mention another amazing site, Mice Howe. And actually, you've got me started. Not Mice Howe, Mine Howe, Mine Howe. Mine Howe is mine,
like that.
Mine Howe is actually near Kirkwall Airport, and what it is a fascinating site that was actually first found in the 1940s. Hang on a minute. Oh God. It was first found in the 1940s. And they decided to cap it off, and then they decided to make it into tourist attraction. So that's down in the bottom, going all the way up. I think it's about, oh God, I can't remember if it's 19 feet below ground. I think it's 19 feet below ground level in the mound. And the reason why this site is massively important to me is not only have I been there, not only have I been down below in it, they actually found Roman pottery and the remains of what we do believe is a Roman era metal smithy, and also evidence of metal artifacts which were highly influenced by Roman craftsmen, indicating that indeed Orkney may have actually been settled or was massively trading with the Roman Empire back in the 100s. I thought that was amazing. Looking at Roman pottery from this site was, and strangely enough, they don't like people knowing that there's Roman stuff being found on Orkney, but loads of it, Roman Samian ware, brooches, pins, pottery, loads of stuff. So the other site to sort of think about is actually this one. And again, it's now closed, I think, permanently. It's a site known as the Tomb of the Eagles. And this is basically where we all finish today. Room of the Eagles. Tomb of, there we go. Before we get to the Tomb of the Eagles, as you're walking over to the Tomb of the Eagles, there's a strange building called the Burnt Mound. Hang on. And what it is that mound behind is full of small stones. When they excavated it, they found lots of sort of what can only be described as stone-lined baths, right? Stone-lined repositories in the ground, and one of them is fed by fresh water. And what we do know now is that stones were placed into a hearth, then taken out the hearth with the tongs, put into the water, heating up the water, boiling it, take out a sluice, water drains out, then you can put more water in, right? And one of the things that I was very much talking about, and one thing that I've completely missed in the lecture, is that if people think that people in the Neolithic period were unclean and dirty, right? They can think again. And we'll come back to that point just before the end, because they were very cleanly people. And there's one other weird thing here. When you look at the mound, you look over and there's a Second World War Wehrmacht Desert Fox caravan, otherwise known as an ambulance, a military ambulance, which had been taken from North Africa in the war and taken all the way to Orkney.
Oh,
It was German. And you're thinking, how the hell did that get there? But it did. It ended up here. And it ended up on Orkney. I thought that was really, really strange. It came all the way from North Africa, German, all the way here, surviving Wehrmacht ambulance caravan. And then the other thing as well is, before we look at the Tomb of the Eagles, and the Tomb of the Eagles is an amazing site because it was originally excavated. It was a private concern. It's actually closed at this minute, which is a bit of a shame. It says permanently closed. They got plans to maybe reopen it. And just a little bit of a thing here, when they excavated it, what they found was that it was full of eagle talons. It was actually full of human skulls. And it's the first time I've ever had a group of people. And when you went into the museum, everyone could hold a skull, like a Neolithic skull from 5,500 years ago. And it was a pitted skull. Each of the people that were placed in here had died of some kind of disease, not a bacterial disease, but a osteocosmetic disease that deformed the bones. And they found about 25 skulls of people who had all died by about the age of 20, and they'd all been placed in here. It was amazing, fascinating to have a group that could actually see that. It was an amazing site. It's on South Ronaldsley. And just before you get to this site, to South Ronaldsley, I can't make it up, right? There is one other thing I'd like to mention, but actually, oh no, two things. I've got to stop. I really, because I can go on. There's something known. This is not this is not. There's something known as the Italian chapel that was
Oh.
completely made out of bean tins
Mm.
by Italian soldiers in the Second World War. They wanted to make a chapel, so they made it out of bully beef tins, and it's all made out of bully beef tins.
Yeah,
it's a
prisoners of war they were, weren't they?
Yeah, they were prisoners of war on Orkney.
Maybe that they came over in that lorry
Maybe they did.
from North Africa.
Actually,
Oh.
maybe they did, because they would have been captured in North Africa.
Yeah,
Maybe they all come over in. It's better than coming over as in a bloody rubber dinghy, isn't it?
yeah.
They came over in an ambulance. Briardale Wood, just quickly mention this, and then we'll go on to our last point. Just a point to be made, and then we'll call it a day. Briardale.
Ooh.
Hoy. Oh, Berrydale, got the wrong bloody name. Hang on. No, not blooming Deep Woods. Oh God, I tell you what, yeah, you come up with some weird Briardale, Wood, okay. Berrydale, that's the one. Berrydale Wood on the island of Hoy. I have been to this woodland, right? I have been to this woodland, and that is a primeval woodland. That is the oldest, most original woodland anywhere in Britain. It's full of rowans, aspens, hazels. It's a truly, when people say ancient, it's truly primeval. It's truly one of the last wildernesses really not touched by human beings anywhere in Britain. And the wood wasn't cut down for the for iron extraction on the island. And Hoy, there's a stone cut tomb also nearby as well, which is great, which I won't show you now. But finally, we're going to go back to Skara Brae. Skara.
Is Hoy inhabited?
Yes.
Oh.
Basically, there's loads of ice cream sellers there.
I just think of the old man of Hoy, it's just
yeah, the old man of Hoy. The island of Hoy has got the highest density of ice cream sellers anywhere on the planet.
Oh my God. Italian, I expect.
Yeah, it is. It is. They on the island of Hoy, they've got 1,000 people living there, and 300 ice cream sellers.
Are you joking?
Yeah. Finally today, I'm just going to stop on this. Finally, at Skara Brae, when we do the Skara Brae lecture, we'll go into more detail, right? Skara Brae had a sanitation system. They had a damp course running across the site. So directly underneath this was a blue damp course layer, right? Which was made, when I say it was like a blue clay damp course layer. So it stopped damp getting in there. But the sanitation bit is that directly in the corner of these buildings, right, they had a toilet, and directly running underneath that was flowing water. So when you went to toilet, they just washed it away.
Oh.
That is sanitation.
Yeah.
And in other words, what I'm trying to say is that it's quite an obvious point. If these people knew nothing about sanitation and health and washing food and keeping things clean, they wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. A disease then would have killed you. So in other words, they were able and they knew about keeping things clean, and they knew about keeping alive. And that are the secrets of Skara Brae, Orkney, and what we've done tonight. So what we're going to do, we're going to call that a day now. And what we're going to do, we're going to start off with any questions from Anne?
I just think it is a fascinating place, and I wonder if it's one of many that that have been perhaps eroded and you know, under the sea sort of thing. I don't know, but so it was sort of mountains
But
before.
basically, Hoy would have been a mountain, and it was like an undulating plain going across the
Yeah.
islands because the water level's quite shallow across most of the. You can actually swim over to Rousey. It's not that choppy, but
Yeah, it
Uh,
sort of
well-
reminds me a bit of those Scilly Isles. Then, you know, we were doing
yes.
a few weeks.
Oh yeah,
ago.
definitely
It's
very
like
similar to the
very
Scilly Islands. Yes.
shallow, but you know, like a Galapago. It's a Galapago.
Archipelago.
A what?
An archipelago.
Archipelago, yes. No, it's
Yeah.
just it's obviously I think you can see that the Iron Age, the Neolithic or the Iron Age has used Neolithic sites. I can see
Yes.
that, you know,
Yes.
very clearly. Thank you,
Yes.
Carl. Thank you.
My pleasure. Right. Goff, thank you for that. And anything you'd like to say?
Oh, it was very interesting. It's a wonder, isn't it? There's so many sites there, aren't there? I wonder why that is.
Mm,
Basically, because development hasn't destroyed them all. That's why.
mm.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. No, it's good.
Good.
Thanks. Very
Thank
good.
you very much. And okay, who's next? We have got hopefully Henri.
Hello there.
Ah,
All right, it would have been handy to have had this before I went and visited it.
Yes.
you wouldn't
I'll
have
have to
ended
go
up.
back. I'll have to go back again.
Oh, when did you go?
About 4 years ago.
Oh,
Oh,
just
God.
before you joined our class. Perhaps it was what, you know, drove you to join our class.
It drew
No,
them.
that was the card through the post box. But now we discover that those who live in the Vale aren't included in anything.
Oh.
Oh, I really screwed up tonight, haven't I?
Nice. Nice but true.
What's that, darling?
Nice but true, that.
Oh,
We're not his favourites. That's the problem, Henry.
Is it? Right, we'll have to form our own club then.
well, I you can come and join my gay club anytime.
You what? Your Gates Club. Gates Club.
I don't think Anne's hearing this properly.
No, not the gate club, the gay club.
Oh, the gay club. Oh, I'm not gay. Although you might say I am. After I've been on the sherry. Oh,
Yeah, can you remember that time when you and I went for a meal in that bloody place and I started chatting at the waiter who was actually a bloke because I was pissed? And that was your fault, that was.
He never had, I didn't know he couldn't drink. And he had a drink. And he was nearly under the table. You only had one drink.
I was
You had to
chatting at
go
the waiter.
home.
Yeah, we had to go home.
And that was the middle of the afternoon. It's probably a, you know, like
Can
a
you remember the time that we went to the
sugar
bloody?
low.
Can you remember the time that we went to the Sully Inn and you said, "Oh, he does acting," and he said, "Does he know John Barrowman?"
Yeah, yeah.
I was, and then when John Barrowman went in there, right? When John Barrowman went in there, it would be like, they said, "Do you know Karl-James Langford?" I can see the bloody thing on the wall now.
Oh,
I can see the
Oh.
court case coming as well.
No, what the affair I had with John Barrowman? Oh God, he was very butch in bed. That's all I can remember. Oh my God. on that note, on that note,
Yeah, I
are we
think
all?
you better go now.
I think we are. Are we all available next week, darlings?
I'm not. No, I'm away in the southern counties of England.
Oh, near Brighton.
No, Southampton.
Oh, yes, of course. His
Of
son.
course,
Oh,
of
are you
course,
having Christmas
course.
over there?
No, my son's flying back from Cyprus.
Oh,
which is near Cardiff.
Oh.
Hopefully.
oh, right, yeah.
And the other thing as
Oh,
well is, thanks to you two now, I've got somebody on blooming line saying, would I be included on the mailing list in Merthyr Tydfil? Thanks a lot, boys.
Well, we're not included on the mailing list.
You're not included on the you're not included in the Merthyr Tydfil mailing list, no.
oh, who is he? Who is it? Who's the Merthyr Tydfil mailing list?
I don't bloody know, do I?
Well, you gotta spread your love.
Right, okay. On that
Go
note,
now.
on that
Thank
note,
you
we're
very
going to
much.
call it a
Very
day.
entertaining.
Thank you very much. Henry and Goff and Anne, is there any more questions this week?
No,
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Goff
Now
and
he's
Henry
had
and Anne.
enough.
I will see you next Thursday. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have
Bye-bye.
you have the rum with hot honey
Yeah.
and water at the same time, it will work better.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
having
then.
any more. All right.
All right. All right. Oh God.
Anyway, night night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Night night, Henri. Ta.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right. Anyway, if there's a list, I want to make it, please. Oh my God, there's someone else wanting a list as well. I just finished. Now, Ryan Dobson. If there's a list, I want to make. Oh, for God's look, guys, look. Right. Anyone who's online, right? Do you know what? It's only showing that there's bloody 2 watchers, but there's more than that on there. Anyway, look, if you if you wanted to join, which is the blue button down below, right, and you become a member, then we can get you something out in the post, right? It's £1.99 a month, whatever, and that's good. Anyway, guys online and girls, who knew learning could be so much fun? Good, it is fun. Right, guys, what I'm going to do, we will be back doing this next Tuesday at 7:30, and then we will be doing this next Thursday from 6 o'clock all the way through to nearly 9. Me losing my voice. Anyway, guys, everybody online, my students have gone now, so they're gone. So anyway, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching online. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join button blue at the bottom. I keep saying it. Whatever. And many thanks. Yes, and it is fun. Thank you very much, Ryan and David and whoever else is online. Thank you very much. I'm off. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look in the chat box. Right. Okay. Cool. Nobody in the chat box. No one there. I'm happy with that. Is there a messenger group we can connect to? Right. Okay. Messenger group. Right. Okay. I tell you what, guys. If you if you wanted to do the join button down below, because Ryan, but if you want to, you can look me up on you can look me up on WhatsApp. Actually, I am on WhatsApp, and just don't phone me. Just WhatsApp me. My WhatsApp number is as follows. I'm going to type it in here now. 849. And oh God, where am I now? I don't know where I am. My head's gone. Do you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out as a heterosexual. Officially now I've come out of as a heterosexual. So that's it. So guys, you know my big secret. I'm a heterosexual. Right, guys, that's my number. And there we go. Hold on. I'm holding on. God's sake, I'm holding on. Holding on. There's a song there. Should we have a song? Right, okay. Okay, here we go. Actually, I'm also on TikTok as well. If you go on TikTok, right, my TikTok account is James a Pirate. I'm a pirate on TikTok. There you go. That's TikTok. TikTok. Oh God, I've just deleted someone. Oh my God, on my phone. What I did? Does anyone know what I'm doing? You have it. Yeah, I've got syphilis, but you don't have to blooming sort of tell the world about it. Do you know what I mean? You know, just because I've got syphilis, I don't need to tell the world. You know, nobody knows that I got syphilis. Right. Right. Do you know when you get messages on you and you actually delete them and you don't know where they've gone? What is that? Oh, for God's sake. Deleted. All by myself. Oh, I don't know. I'm all by myself. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to go now. I've got to go. Actually, guys, you guys on there now, is there anything you want me to talk about now? Do it. Tell me now. You've got 1 minute. Whilst I look at my phone, you've got 1 minute. 1 minute to ask me anything. You've got everyone online can ask me 1 minute quickly, right? Oh, I'll drop you a message shortly, but I've found something awesome and I don't know what to do next. Well, flipping heck. That sounds great. Awesome. If it's marvelous, I like it even better. Awesome is like an old word, right? It's like awesome. Awesome. Some, it needs to be more. Sounds exciting, Ryan. Oh, come on. Let's have a look. Let's see what the awesome is. Right. Do you know what? Right, guys, right, I've been doing this YouTube stuff for ages. And I'm thinking, right, what if I did like a weird thing, right? Like just a weird sort of talk about anything show once a week. Maybe I should. Ooh, weird. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know. Right. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go now. And just have a quick look at this. Anyone got anything else they want to say? Right, here we go. Oh, God. Right. Yeah, history related, almost like Mr. Broadstock. Broadstock. Well, yes. Good guy. Good guy. You know what? I gotta go to work in the snow tomorrow. Oh my God. Right. Right. Definitely once a week. Yeah, but what would be the best day of the week to do it? You know what I mean? What would be the best day to be absolutely nuts? Just like rat out of an aqueduct, sort of like invading Poland type thing. Don't invade Poland alone. It's not a good thing. You know, I could tell you about that story, right? I had a neighbor, right? I had a neighbor called Constantine, right? And my neighbor Constantine, he was great. And this was like living in Lantris, and this was like in 2016, right? Anyways, Constantine, right? Sunday would be good. Yeah, I could do Sunday maybe. I'll think about it. And also, heavy sale, if you did join down below, right, then you'll be first to get an update. Sunday, 4 p.m, nobody would accept it. What? Nobody would accept it. Huh? No, you got to have it about 7 p.m, isn't it? Right. What was I going to say? Right, anyway, my neighbor Constantine, right, he was he suddenly left, right, because he's just driving to Latvia because that's where he lived, and he was a computer guy, and he was doing really well in Latvia. Anyway, he drove all the way from sort of Lantrisson all the way through to Paris, right? And when he got to Paris, he picked up a friend of his, right, who was a bit of a joker, and they said, "What we're going to do? We're going to drive, right, all the way through to Warsaw." So they drove all the way to Warsaw, right? And when I went to Warsaw, what Constantine said, he said he's going to claim to have invaded Poland. And by claiming he's invaded Poland, he's going to put a Welsh flag on the table, right? So what he did, he put a Welsh flag on the table in Warsaw, right? And he took a photograph and he said, "I've invaded Poland and I've captured Warsaw and now it's part of Wales." So I thought that was great, right? So when he went to the loo, right, his mate buggered off and put a flag on the table with a swastika on it, right? And strangely, the manager kicked him out of the pub. It's not good. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go now. So we've been streaming. It says we've been streaming 82 minutes ago. What? I've been streaming for bloody hours. I've been streaming for 3 hours. 3 hours I've been streaming for. 3 long hours. Right. So anyway, Ryan, David, I'm going to go now. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for everything. And no doubt I'll see you soon. I'm off. Thank you. Good night. Nostaki. Hedwch. Thank you. See you soon. Tuesday. Right, I'm off. So right, so that there, close 5. Night night, guys.